Hi, today I'm going to show you how to check the UPAS sample flow rate against an external flow meter. To do that, I've got a UPAS with a filter cartridge and a 1 liter per minute PM 2.5 inlet already installed, a flow check adapter, and my external flow meter. You should perform the flow check with the sample filter installed in the UPAS or using another filter of the same type as the sample filter. We recommend using these AlleyCat Whisper series flow meters with our air sampling products. This one is for measuring flow rates up to 5 standard liters per minute, and it's calibrated for air. We've also got this flow meter set up with HEPA filters on the inlet and outlet. Now, when I turn the flow meter on, I'm going to check the screen to confirm that it's displaying the volumetric flow rate in liters per minute. If it wasn't, I would press this button in the lower left corner of the screen that's labeled liters per minute, and then hit select. Next, before placing the flow check adapter over the UPAS inlet, confirm that this O-ring is installed and that it's seated in the groove all the way around the circumference of the flow check adapter. Now, I'm going to seal this flow check adapter over the UPAS inlet. To do that, I'm going to line the flow check adapter up with the inlet so that these feet on the bottom of the flow check adapter are aligned with the grooves around the outside of the inlet cap. Then I'm going to press the flow check adapter down until those feet hit the bottom of the grooves and the adapter seals around the outside of the inlet. Now, I'm going to turn the UPAS on. I'm going to wait for the LED light to turn pink, and then I'm going to connect to the UPAS using the AST UPAS app. Today, I'll be using the iOS app, but we also have an Android app. In the AST UPAS app, I'm going to click here to connect to the sampler. It's going to scan to look for the UPAS. Then I'm going to select the UPAS serial ID that I want to connect to, and it will automatically return to the main menu. Now it's showing that I'm connected to the UPAS. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to make sure that the correct filter inlet is selected here, the 1 liter per minute PM 2.5 inlet, which is black. Selecting that inlet will tell the UPAS that it needs to control the sample volumetric flow rate to 1 liter per minute. Now I'm going to enter the filter flow check and adjust menu to check the flow rate and adjust it if needed. In this menu, I'm going to toggle Activate Flow to On, and that will start the UPAS sample pump. Now the UPAS will start trying to control the sample flow rate to 1 liter per minute, plus or minus 4%. At this point, the LED light on the front of the UPAS will be lilac colored. If the LED is flashing, that means the UPAS is still in the process of adjusting the sample flow rate, and you shouldn't worry too much about whether the reading on the flow rate meter matches the target value. When the LED stops flashing, like it has now, that means the UPAS is done adjusting the sample flow rate and thinks it's within 4% of the target value, which again, in this case, is 1 liter per minute. So now it's time to take a look at the reading on the flow rate meter. The active flow control on the UPAS is usually very accurate, so the flow meter should be reading a value that's very close to 1 liter per minute. If it's not, that could be a sign that the flow check adapter is not sealed around the inlet. Alternatively, it could be a sign that there's a leak somewhere else, for example, in the tubing between the flow meter and the UPAS inlet. One good check is to grab the flow check adapter and to try to wiggle it a little bit. If the flow check adapter is sealed around the inlet properly, the reading on the flow meter won't change much when you do this. If the reading on the flow meter changes a lot, that means the flow check adapter isn't sealed around the cap and you won't get a good flow rate measurement. It means that air is leaking between the inlet and the flow check adapter. If that happens, you might need to take the flow check adapter off the inlet, make sure the O-ring inside the flow check adapter is seated in the groove properly, line the feet on the flow check adapter back up with the grooves on the cap, and then press the flow check adapter back down until the feet hit the bottom of the grooves and the adapter seals around the cap. At this point, you might decide that the reading on your flow meter is close enough to the target flow rate and that you don't need to make an adjustment. If you do want to make an adjustment to try to get the flow rate closer to the target value, you can do so back in the mobile app. If the reading on the flow meter is a little too high, you can decrease the flow offset by a few percent until you get the volumetric flow rate displayed on the flow meter as close to 1 liter per minute as possible. Alternatively, if the reading on the flow meter is a little too low, you can increase the flow offset by a few percent until you get the volumetric flow rate displayed on the flow meter screen as close to 1 liter per minute as possible. In our case here, the flow meter was reading a little bit less than 1 liter per minute. So I've increased the flow offset to 2%. Now you can see that the flow meter is displaying a sample flow rate of 1 liter per minute exactly. Be careful about applying large flow offsets in this flow check and adjust menu. Remember that the active flow control system inside the UPAS is designed to maintain the sample flow rate within 4% of the target value. That means you really shouldn't need to apply a flow offset of more than a few percent. The app will let you apply a flow offset as large as 9% in a pinch, or negative 9% in the other direction. But if your flow meter is telling you that you need to apply an offset of more than 4 or 5% to reach the target volumetric flow rate, that might be a sign that something is wrong. That could mean the flow check adapter is not fully sealed around the UPAS inlet. It could mean the O-ring in the flow check adapter needs to be replaced. There could be a leak somewhere else between the flow meter and the UPAS inlet. Your flow meter might not be set to the correct units. It might be displaying the mass flow rate instead of the volumetric flow rate. Or if the flow meter you are using only displays mass flow and you're converting to volumetric flow manually, an error could have occurred during that process. Lastly, if you've ruled out all of those possible sources of error and the flow rate still differs from the target value by more than 4 or 5%, something could be wrong with the UPAS. It might need to be serviced. Once you're done with this process, regardless of whether you applied a non-zero flow offset, you can enter the reading from your flow meter here. This step is optional, but if you do enter the reading here, it will be recorded in the UPAS log file. Finally, when you're done, make sure to toggle Activate Flow to off. Now you can remove the flow check adapter from the UPAS inlet. And back in the app, you can return to the main menu to finish programming your UPAS sample settings.